Maricopa County Community College District Governing Board for October 24th, 2017. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of students from ASU MED and Higher Education degree program taught by Dr. Luis Albert, Professor of Practice in the Maricopa Lou Fulton Teachers College. Begin with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Andrea Lucio.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Student life report. Students from Glendale Community College.
Good evening, President Hendrix, members of the Governing Board, Chancellor Harper-Marinick, members of CEC, and guests. We are the Associated Student Government of Glendale Community College. My name is Andrea Lucio, and I am this academic year's Student Government President. I will be graduating spring 2018 with an Associates of Arts degree, majoring in secondary education with a focus in English. I would like to take the time to thank you all for allowing us to share the work that we have done this past academic year and the plan for the remainder of our calendar year. As a student government, we not only advocate for student engagement, we ultimately support student success. We realize that as students, we have a voice, one that when focused can truly make an impact, not just within our college, but also within our community. We would like to share our experiences and insights with you this evening.
Hello, my name is Gabriela Ira, and this academic year Student Government Vice President. I will also be graduating come spring 2018 with an associate's degree in science and plan to major in neuroscience. As student government, we are in charge of providing tours of GCC, working alongside student life where we get to show off our lovely campus, as well as our academic programs, clubs and organizations, resources, and services. We fully consider ourselves advocates for the services and resources on campus, as some of our student government members, including myself, are tutors and are involved in more than one club or organization. However, our curiosity and involvement does not stop there. We are constantly searching for ways in which we can promote resources on campus and have even been asked to participate in school committees where we provide feedback on what works and what needs improvement, such as the Student Library Advisory Board, the President's Completion Task Force, and even the Presidential Committee. In sum, I would like to thank you all on our behalf for your support and allowing this all to be possible.
Hello, my name is Zachary James. My academic goal at Glendale Community College is to obtain an associate's degree in business. Student life at GCC is robust and vibrant with possibility. As a student leadership group, we are often asked to present the value of student engagement. Whenever new or potential students are brought together, classroom presentation, honor program orientations, and new student orientation tabling, to name a few. Our student organizations plan trips that have meaning, such as competitions, conferences, and conventions, and host events that engage our student as well as our employee populations in activities and causes that reach far beyond the borders of our college. As a as a business major and a student, this is of great interest to me. One of the many reasons behind the creativity and innovation and caliber in these activities is our funding process based upon an old system of funding to budgeting and allocations, which makes planning and forecasting a necessity. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Crystal Perez and I'm the Secretary for the Associated Student Government. I am too and graduating in May with an associate's degree in communication. By having the opportunity to engage with not only club members, but also faculty and staff advisors, I have been afforded the opportunity to gain varied educational insights where Glendale Community College is concerned. As a 3-year veteran of the Associated Student Government, I, along with my fellow ASG members, have personally listened to and become the voices for students and student clubs on campus. We also support district initiatives such as Women Rising, the Male Empowerment Network, and Maricopa County's Ignite program. We serve as a foundation for scholarly community by supporting a completion agenda, hosting tutoring sessions, facilitating workshop opportunities, and club involvement within our activities. Most recently, as requested, we are hoping to create and facilitate a volunteerism fair to not only help our students, but to help our surrounding community. If considered an acronym, the life and student life becomes leadership, involvement, friendship, and engagement. We embody that philosophy.
Hello, my name is Alexander Gomez, and I'll be a Public Relations Officer in the Associated Student Government. I'll be attaining my degree of Associate's degree in Science next semester. My time at Glendale Community College has been well spent through the activities and opportunities here on campus, such as being an active member in Student Honors Organization, as well as representing Glendale Community College as a gaucho per occasion, as well as attending multiple workshops on campus. To ensure we are meeting the unique needs of our student population we serve, the Associated Student Government implemented interest surveys last spring. We're currently creating activities to address these needs. None of this could have happened if it wasn't for student leadership opening their doors in 2006. At the time, we were only 23 student organizations, and the Associated Student Government couldn't captivate or retain a full board. Yet as of today, the Student Leadership Center is 54 clubs strong, with multiple new organizations coming into play each semester. I am more than grateful for all the opportunities that our student leadership has provided, and this year, Associated Student Government will be one for the record books.
It is among our goals to fully enrich our students' experience, to give the confidence and support needed to develop skills to aid them in achieving their goals, educational or otherwise. Speaking personally, it is my involvement in the Associated Student Government at Glendale Community College that has allowed me to not only develop new skills, but to also hone existing ones geared towards leadership. I am confident that with skills such as networking, time management, and communication, along with an in-depth knowledge of trust and its importance, I am capable of achieving my professional goal of one day becoming a contributing member of the Department of Education. I am certain that the officers that you have heard this evening will also succeed in their endeavors, becoming great leaders within our community. I would like to thank you all for giving you of your time to listen to our accomplishments this past year and our intended goals for the remainder of this academic year. We fully realize that none of it would be possible if it wasn't for the support of our administration and the support of you all. Thank you.
Ms. Livingston.
All right, which one, Zach? Raise your hand. All right, Zach, think broadcasting. Your voice is phenomenal. All right, who is the one that wants to be a teacher? Raise your hand. Department. Thank you. What grade?
Secondary education, anywhere in high school.
Anywhere in high school? Awesome. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next student life report will be by Malik Washington, a student at MCC.
Good evening, board members and Maricopa presidents. My name is John Mulhern. I'm the Director of Athletics at Mesa Community College, and I wanted to introduce one of our student athletes. He plays in our men's basketball program. His name is Malik Washington. Ironically, I was at a Barnes & Noble looking for some books, and I noticed Malik was sitting at a chair taking some notes on a book. I think it was called Contagious, excuse me. And what it was that, see, that's why he's a presidential scholar and an honors student from McClintock High School, and I'm an athletic director. He was taking notes from a book regarding buying habits of individuals because he wanted to sell his children's book. And I didn't know that at the time that he wrote a children's book. So I asked him what he was doing, and he told me, and he said, I wrote a children's book, and it was called Be a Star. And so a little order of events, I ended up doing a story. Wayne Block did a story for us on our athletic website at Mesa Community College, Be a Star. Then our Institutional Advancement Office put the story on our Mesa website. Then he did an interview on a sports talk radio show regarding his book called Be a Star. Then he was interviewed by ABC Morning News regarding Be a Star, and he kind of explained to them that the instructor in the book was Mr. Booker, which ended up being Devin Booker from the Phoenix Suns. Then he was interviewed by Maricopa TV, and they did a special on him. Then the same news station did a spoof with him and pretended like they were doing a follow-up, and they brought him to the America West Arena, and he got to meet Devin Booker. So it was kind of interesting, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to send each of you the link to the video that was done by ABC News where he met Devin Booker, and then tonight he's here. So I want to introduce Malik Washington, wrote a children's book called Be a Star.
First of all, I would like to say that I'm so honored to be here talking to these giants today, and first of all, John, thank you for the love and the effort for it's called this book. Thank you so much for that, son. It's been great being a friend of yours, and sir, Mr. Sar, thank you for this. I think I'm here because of you, so thank you, and as well as you. The truth is it's called. I'm so blessed to be in such a fantastic school, and all the people I've met in this book. It's been so it's been truly an honor. And it's called this summer. I changed the way I think, and I came into Mesa with not the right thoughts and the right and the right mindset. I came in here feeling entitled to things. I seriously regret that. And then this summer I changed the way I think. I became humble. I became a reader. I read dozens of books, and I learned from mentors, and from people way smarter than me. I learned that in life. It's called your mindset means everything. If you don't have the strong mindset, you will struggle in a life, really. So it's called change your thoughts, and it's called my a person that I admire is Michelangelo. It's called this man was this it's called they called him the divine one. This man was in his 30s, called the divine one. He was powerful, man. He was wealthy. Freaking super talented, and the crazy thing is when he was 87, he said some words that have been some words that have been repeated for centuries. He said, "Yet I am still." He said, "Yet." He said, "Yet." He said, "Yet I am still learning." For it's called these presents out here, you people, and the board, keep on learning. My coach at Mesa, tells us, grow or die. To grow, you have to keep on learning. And it's called with that mindset. I have seen my basically whole life change. With constant learning. To be humble, find mentors, read books. Be a bold, take a risk. And I don't know much, but I told you the fixes in my mindset that have helped change my life, and I'll be talking here, and all you people here, I'm so blessed, and I have much to learn, and I would love to to get I guess mentored by all the people here, and so thank you so much, and keep on learning. Thank you. No idea why that just happened. Thank you so much.
Wait, Malik, don't go.
Oh.
You can't go. Wow. Okay, I'll speak for myself. I'm not a giant. Dude, you're the giant. No. Also, can I buy your book? Is it on Amazon? Are you gonna buy it? I'll buy it right now. I want you to sign it.
Yep.
How much is it? No.
No. I hear this is yours.
No, I want you to sign it.
Here, you can sign it right here.
Thank you. I don't care that. My name's Tracy. No, oh, nice to meet you. I'll be your mentor anytime. Yeah, you're gonna teach me. Yeah, it's really the other way around. TRAC. Okay.
For a shameless plug, this is on Amazon.
Yeah.
I have never, ever ordered a children's book until this last month. and I brought up a good point. 20% of all the money that he makes in this book goes to charity, his personal charities. So. And on top of all that, he's a heck of a basketball player.
You're welcome.
And basketball games are free. They're usually on Thursdays and Saturdays. So sit at midcourt for nothing, or sorry, $5. And hot dogs are $3. So you can go to the Suns game if you want.
Keep talking. Keep talking.
Trying to kill time here, but that's
Well, I didn't know.
no, that's all right.
When I want something, I go after it. I'm really sorry. But as a teacher, I had to, and I really do want to buy it. It's all here, but I won't take it. You are so cool. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll go steady.
She wants one.
Deal with it, yeah.
Oh, no good. Oh, all right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, that was great. Emeritus Awards, we have one Emeritus Distinction Award this meeting. President Labor Reese, would you like to introduce your honoree?
Yes, may I approach the podium?
Yes, please.
Oh, that was awesome. Thank you so much. I can go on.
Good evening. Board President Hendrix, governing board members, Chancellor Harper-Marinick, CEC, and guests. It is my honor to come to you today to recommend for Faculty Emerita, Dr. Carol Jenkins. Carol is one of our amazing faculty who have served GCC for 24 years. She's known throughout the district as a faculty of high integrity, high expectations, and an ability to engage and connect with our students like no one else. She has received numerous awards, and I asked her department chair, Dr. Dean Wheeler, who's unable to be here today, to share a little bit of stories about her so that I could give you the personal side of Dr. Jenkins. And he says, she is passionate about using the principles of sociology to help students develop critical thinking skills. And for me, most importantly, she understands the importance of valuing each student, accepting students for who they are, and serving them the best she can. And I think as all of us as educators, the wisdom that gets passed down from us gets passed to our students. And like a ripple, the ripples just grow. I have to share with you something her father said to her that she shared at her recent faculty retirement party. Her father said, "True success is knowing your calling and doing it well." And I'm sure that's something she has said many times to her students. Dr. Jenkins?
Thank you so much for this honor. I would like to really say thank you to those of you who are stewards of resources for investing in faculty, the professional development, the travel availabilities. I spent 23 years at the university before I came here 24 years ago. I don't think I have made a mistake at all. I enjoy the opportunity of trying to invest in those students who come before us and to be served. And it's that servant attitude that is so critically important. I come from a family of award-winning teachers, for which I'm extremely grateful. Educators, the mentoring, I'm grateful for that. They have since moved on, and I miss them dearly and would love to have had them here. Dr. Marinick, I am so grateful for your envision for the programmatic efforts in the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, because having spent most of my career as a rural sociologist in that kind of research and transitioning to what we do so well is the teaching and learning of those that have been entrusted to us. It's just been wonderful, but those visions could not occur unless you were willing to invest the resources in us. And I trust that we have been good stewards and have made you proud. I am thrilled that in my discipline, which is a very difficult one where R1s rule the roost, to have started out in regional and national offices and gone from at the national level only 4 community college members to this last year, over 932 community college members in that professional organization. It has been phenomenal. I am very proud to say that our district and our colleges are the flagship in our discipline and a force to be reckoned with. But again, thank you, and to my own president. Thank you so much. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention my dean, one of my deans, Chuck Jeffrey, who has always been by my side and those unbelievable conversations and things like that. But again, I am so grateful. When people have asked, what are you going to do in retirement? The only answer I can think of is learn how to do nothing. But I do take my father's recommendation so seriously, that this is a special calling to a special group of students who have come our way, and we need to serve them with every bit of energy that we have and compassion. They are a living laboratory, and the best of the best. And I am so proud to have spent the last 23 years of my career, which comes out to 49 years. I couldn't do the 50th, but to have served this district and this college, but most of all, the students that have been entrusted to me. And I say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed these student life reports and these emeritus awards at every meeting. Oh, now that said, I've got to transition to the chancellor's report, which I really enjoy also. It's always fantastic.
Wasn't sure where we're going with that.
Chancellor Harper-Marinick.
Thank you, President Hendrix. I have 2 announcements, and then I have 3 presentations, and I'll try not to keep us here until late hours. But before I do that, I understand that there may be a group of individuals in the audience that are here to speak on behalf of the Tree of Life Child Care Center and may wish to speak to the board. And I would like to let you know that the board has directed me to extend the lease for the Child Care Center to the end of the academic year. So if you were here in regards to that issue, that is the good news I have to share with you. Thank you. The next announcement before I move to the podium is we have the Women's Leadership Mentoring Program participants today. It is a program that we've had in place since the year 2000, an opportunity for our own employees to learn about leadership, learn about the district, and become strong and committed women. And they're here today. We've had over 450 graduates since the year 2000. And this year we have a full class of 36 participants. So I would like all of the mentees to please stand so we can celebrate what you're doing. Thank you. And as I told them when I presented to them not too long ago, with the gift of this opportunity comes a great responsibility to be ambassadors of the values of the Maricopa system. So thank you for participating. And then if may approach the podium now, Mr. Hendrix.
Yes, Judge.
Thank
please.
you. My first presentation is a very special recognition of one of our outstanding adjunct professors. And I would like to invite Gail Haas to join me at the podium. Tonight we're recognizing the contributions of Dr. Paul Kaiser, who is currently teaching, and I'm not making a mistake, his 100th semester of teaching mathematics at Phoenix College. So we would like to take this opportunity to say thank you and to actually give him a special gift on behalf of our Governor Ducey. So if you could join us at the podium, Dr. Kaiser, who told me. So we have a foreign language in common, his French. So what I would like to do is read the commendation from the governor so we know what is in that important document. And it says, be it known to all that I, Douglas A. Ducey, Governor of the State of Arizona, do hereby offer my sincere appreciation to Dr. Paul Kaiser for his lifelong dedication to teaching mathematics as he is currently teaching his 100th semester. Thank you for the many years of training generation after generation how to be successful in mathematics and apply themselves to their studies. On behalf of the citizens of the state of Arizona, thank you for the many years of selfless dedication to teaching. Governor Douglas Ducey. And our excellent leader of the adjunct faculty has also some personal messages for Dr. Kaiser on behalf of his colleagues. So, Gail?
Dr. Kaiser has some friends in his department, so we asked him. And they gave us information. What can we say about Paul Kaiser? Paul has a diverse background. He was born in Egypt, son of an Austrian father and an Egyptian mother, whose parents came from Russia, and he grew up in New York City. I'm not sure how you ended up in Arizona. He knows he knows quite a bit about various cultures, geography, and the world as a result. Paul is fluent in French, has a working knowledge of Spanish and Arabic, and is an avid consumer of news stories. Paul is a modern Renaissance man. Those who know him often look forward to his visits on Tuesday and Thursdays when he teaches, because he always has some bit of knowledge to share with us. Or as we call it, we get Kaisered. Every time he comes by, we always learn something new. Paul has a deep love for mathematics because he's always thinking in those terms. He's always looking for a way to apply mathematics to daily events. But more than a love for mathematics and teaching mathematics, because he has a Doctor of Art degree in mathematics, is his love for teaching in general. Testimonials from his former students are a great barometer to measure his success in the classroom. Paul says he's a very fortunate man because he was married to the same woman for 40 plus years before she passed. He has been living in the same house for 40 plus years. And he's been working at the same place for 40 plus years. Now, I just heard that that's 47 years. Not many people can say the same. In reality, we are the fortunate ones. It is quite an honor and a privilege to know Paul. He is well deserving of the recognition being bestowed upon him.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to acknowledge the memory of Bill Mitchell, who was department chair at Phoenix College in the fall of '71 when I was hired. Some of you may know the Mitchell name because his nephew is the former mayor, Harry Mitchell, who later became Congressman Mitchell. Without him making the decision to sign the papers, I wouldn't be here tonight. So, and the other thing I want to say, as they say in the business world, in the interest of full disclosure, I haven't taught 100 semesters full time because that would make me 77 or something like that, which I'm not. I think what the district did was they took my years as a full-timer, added it to the years as a 49er, added it to the years as an adjunct, and took summer session classes, combined 5 classes into one semester. So, but 100 is a nice number. I was told to make this brief. So the other thing I want to say is, as teachers, we always take great pride when we find out some of our former students have gone into the same fields. And I'm proud to let you know that although I have a lot of students who have become high school teachers, 3 of them have actually become community college teachers in this district. You may know them. One has retired, Ann Dudley. The other one is Melinda Rodenbaugh. And the third one is Dr. Kahowski at Glendale. Walt Kahowski. These were all students in my class who said to me when I told them, save your old exams, you might need them when you become a teacher. They said, no way. Well, here they are. And the other thing I want to say, because as math teachers, we're always looking at patterns. Some of my first students who were 18 in the fall of '71 are now 64. So I'm now having their grandchildren, I didn't misspeak, grandchildren, not children, because the 64-year-old who has a 44-year-old who now in turn has an 18-year-old is now in my class. So I'm very grateful to the district for giving me this chance to have a good career. And I should also let you know that I was able to complete my 3rd degree via the sabbatical program, which I'm very grateful for. Thank you.
Stand in front of, yeah,
okay.
bring your plaque.
I better show this, right? In the middle. Okay. Took me 100 semesters to get here. Thank you. Thank you.
And I will tell you that it doesn't matter if it was full-time, part-time, or summer session, teaching is teaching, and we appreciate all that you have done for our students. My second presentation is to provide the board with an update on the progress that we have made implementing the directives that I received from the board via the adoption of a resolution in September of this year. And let me just remind us what the directives were. The resolution dissolved the Classified Staff Council effective September 18th, 2017, and gave the Chancellor directives to develop a structure that is reflective of the employee communities of interest based on occupational category and aligned with the federal regulations, and ask that we come up with a process for policy development that replaces what was in place, and that we are not to come back with activities that may be duplicative of processes that we have in place, for example, for termination and appeals and grievances and so on. So I want the board to know that I convened an ad hoc group that is representative of what we have known as employee groups, and includes also senior leadership as the college president and vice presidents of the multiple areas. We have had 2 productive meetings. We've taken the resolution and tried to address all of the directives. One of the areas of direction in the resolution was that we adopt the process that we have currently for administrative regulations, development of those, and adopt for policies. So we're going to come back with a recommendation to do a modified version of that, because as we studied what that process is, we learned it's actually a 12-step process, and it doesn't end with the board. So instead of making a longer process, we are taking the components of that we seem to believe that work well for the development of policies. So we're going to bring that recommendation back to the board. We, in 2 meetings, were not able to accomplish all that we were hoping to do. We're also working on communication tools and processes so that all employees are aware of what exists today, where that information is, who are the people you need to know, where do you go if you have questions, where do you go if you have concerns. And we realized we don't have a single repository of that information, so we need to make sure that we communicate in an easier way, more direct way, where that information is to employees. So we're working on that, and we will be faithful to the recommendation that whatever we come back for recommendations to the board respects our historical desire to be inclusive and to allow the employees to participate in some of these decisions. So we are hoping to have 2 other meetings, and ideally by the meeting in November, if not November, maybe the meeting in December, we'll come back with some recommendations. Any questions from the board? Nope. Thank you. And the third and last presentation is an update on the transformation, building on what we presented to the board 2 months ago. So I would like my team of Dr. Lara, Dr. Dale, Dr. Gonzalez to line up. And as a reminder, we have 3 main categories of this work in support of our students. And Dr. Lara is taking the lead on the guided pathways. Dr. Dale takes the lead on the student support and structures. And Dr. Gonzalez takes the lead on the workforce development, industry partnerships, and alignment. So we are going to, I'm going to remind us as just part of the context why we're doing this work and what the goal of the work is, the transformation is, and it is our commitment to bring the necessary changes to our system so that we are in a better position to meet the needs in the community. And that includes aligning with the expectations and the needs in the business community, increasing the collaboration within the system, and making sure that we are innovative and excited about that innovative work as we move forward. It is obviously about students and their success. All the work we do, I believe, should be centered on that. And as we engage in this process of transformation, we understand that some parts of our culture will need to change, that we need to make sure that is a more systemic district, and that we are promoting entrepreneurial activities, and as I said earlier, innovation, collaboration, and because we are good stewards of the resources, we're also ensuring that we leverage the resources that we have. As a reminder, there are 3 primary categories. I just mentioned those. We have guided pathways, and in this version, we are combining guided pathways and the student support. And the reason for that is because we were actually speaking about 4 pillars in the past. But as we start doing this work, we realize that it's not really 4 pillars that are independent of each other, that you can't have successful guided pathways if we don't have the right level of advising, for example, that we can't have guided pathways unless we have this infrastructure and the tools to facilitate that work. So we are now speaking about areas of work as opposed to the pillars, because somehow that implied that there was independent work happening, and that's not the case. So guided pathways, is helping students go from point A to point B in a direct manner. It is based on the work and the research that has been done at the national level. We have some work in Maricopa too, where Mesa Community College had taken the lead with really impressive work by the faculty. But there's also a lot of research about what works. So we are using that as a framework to make it Maricopa-like and make sure that it is helping our students, again, transition through our system to a job or to a university if that's what is best for them. Advising, as I mentioned, is a critical component of that. The industry partnerships is implementing pathways to industry-specific sectors, and that is based on the needs for the state of Arizona. We are looking at the Arizona Commerce Authority and GPEC and all of the entities in the state that are identifying the key areas of growth for employment and skills development. An important part of the industry partnerships will be making sure that we have hands-on work-like experiences for the students that go beyond internships, which is what traditionally we have done. And obviously, all of this will not be possible unless we also reform the other components of the system. So technology and human resources and the equitable allocation of resources will be important to this work. So this is just a review of what we have presented before. And if you may recall, during the board members, I know some of the people in the audience are not going to recall what they haven't seen or heard. But you would, that we had a series of tasks that were to be accomplished in 90 days, 12 months, 18 months, and so on. So what we're doing tonight is giving you an update of where we are with all of the tasks that we had identified as needing to be completed or at minimum initiated in 90 days. So that's what the emphasis of the presentation tonight will be. So I am going to ask Dr. Lara, way behind me. You need to be like the students. You need to be right behind me here. So Dr. Lara will provide the summary specifically for the guided pathways. And again, this is what we have accomplished in 90 days since the board gave us the green light to move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Hendrix, member of the board, Chancellor Marnick, and colleagues. And Chris, I got some new glasses in case you want to come take a picture. Okay. What we're offering tonight is some information and updates on the deliverables. And it's before I start with the deliverables, I want to reinforce what Dr. Marnick said about the combination of the strategies. As we were working together, we realized the critical importance of the pathways, but you could not separate the pathways from advisement and student services. So we found ourselves saying, wait a minute, this other group is talking about it, we're talking about it, we better make sure that we're coordinated so we can do a thorough job. So that's why we combined the strategies. So the first deliverable I spoke about 2 months ago when I shared with you that we had negotiated and contracted with some national consultants from the National Center for Inquiry Improvement, Rob Johnstone, Gretchen Smith, and Kay McClinney, who are basically the national leaders on developing guided pathways and working with colleges. They were the ones who were working with the AACC model, also working with the state of California, and they just have started also working with cohort number 2 with AACC. By the way, Mr. Johnstone has already been here, and we just want to invite you that Gretchen Smith will be here November 3rd, and she will be one of the keynote speakers at the Student Success Conference, and she will be highlighting and sharing the information that's been learned so far from the first cohort on guided pathways. But also in concert with student services, we really wanted to emphasize that we do have a full team looking at advisement. What we're looking at, first of all, is we're also working with our human resources department because we realize we need to go back and evaluate the job description and the way that the advisement came out in the class and comp study. So we're beginning there, but the way we're doing that is by getting information from NACADA, the Academic Advisement National Organization, also looking at those institutions such as Alamo Community College where we visit, and other colleges that have adopted national models for advisement. So we want to look at it, and between that, we will make a Maricopa model for advisement. So that's why it is critically important to us, because we realize that student support and advisement, all of it starts there with the students. And with that, I wanted to read a quote that I saw that said, "Student pathways provide a visible, flexible, and sustainable roadmap for a student's journey through the educational experience. The same pathway can also frame the college's strategic plan, so what the colleges do is what the students do. And what students do is what the college does." So what we're trying to emphasize is this transformation will help transform the Maricopa system so that we are responding and helping students to be successful. Also, an important part on this contract with the national consultants, today they started sending us information about what some of the other models are doing in advisement, what the actual model looks like when you create pathways, what the students will see. So we are getting the benefit of getting information from other colleges so that we're incorporating what the importance of R&D, which is rip off and duplicate. So we want to go back and see what other institutions are doing so we can learn from them. Also, when you look at the second deliverable, we have created a leadership model which has been meeting since July, and we're calling this group the Transformational Integrated Framework. And what that does is consists of the 3 strategy owners or presidents, the Dr. Ernest, chief of staff, we've got the business leads for the areas, we've got people from the district office. IT is a critical player because what we're wanting to do is look at how we can actually make this in a Maricopa system that impacts all of our students. So we are working with a leadership model. An important component, one of the major components, is the adoption of the guided pathways construct of framework and guiding principles. And what we've done is actually, as was emphasized, Mesa had started some tremendous work starting to map courses, already some pathways, and then they had 3 other colleges that joined them. They were called the Early Adopters, Phoenix College, Gateway, and South Mountain. So what we've done is basically been adopting their model that was based on the completion by design and the best practices that are out there. But also what we've done is we've sent that information to our consultant to say, look at it, give us some feedback. Are we on the right track? So that's part of how we plan to use the consultant. But most importantly, what we're also wanting to do is make sure that we link this to the e-tool. And next month, we will bringing you to the board a proposal for an e-tool that will support advisement, pathways, analytics, and a scheduler. Now, obviously, we can't share that information publicly until we bring it to the board because it is for a contract with a vendor. But we did a lot of work looking at what is the best program out there that can benefit our students. So we will be bringing that to you next month. Let's see if I... Now what we do is we've been working very closely with the entire team to look at what are the baseline for our key performance indicators. Basically, what's important to us is that we link it to what we've stated that the colleges will be doing and the district. So we have gone back and linked those, and we will be having those hopefully available for you at the next meeting in 2 months. And what we have been doing, though, is we've been involving the Vice President of Academic Affairs, Student Affairs, Workforce Development, and IT, so that we're sure that we get input from all of our stakeholders. We're also developing a comprehensive project implementation plan for the degree mapping, alignment of the student affairs business processes, integration of the e-tool, and change management strategies. Obviously, as you're aware, trying to move the entire district, we need to make sure that we're getting the information out to all of our colleges. One of the most important things we've done is we have formed college teams on all 10 campuses and the district office. These teams will also be meeting with us when the consultants come for our 6 institutes and the 44 visits when they're coming 44 times per year to the district to visit twice each with each of our colleges. So what we're doing is we are looking at how we can make sure that we integrate it all continually. We're believing that we probably will have at least 10 individual work teams working on all the various projects currently, and we call it a deck of cards because we have 52 members who are part of these teams from the 10 colleges and the district. But that's just the starting team. Then what we will do is go out and see who else we need to bring in, what other subject matter experts. The budget, as you have are aware, is being developed, and we hope to be able to bring that to you at the next board meeting where we will have a listing of what all of the costs for all of these specific projects will be. Communication is one of the most effective things we recognize that we need to be doing. So we are working to develop a communication plan. There will be a website that, by the way, some of us have had an opportunity to see it. It's going to be excellent, provide information district-wide, will be available and provide updates, but also will allow others to know what we're doing and also to look at the resources. Also, part of the way we're using the college teams is as a communication vehicle, because we feel that the faculty and the members from each college team can update their campuses. And the last and most important thing we want to do is develop a comprehensive plan for development and implementation of the pathways. We are working backwards from the timeline to look at when do we have to hand it off to IT so they can get it into the system. And when I talked to Vice Chancellor Kelty, he says, remember that a big part of it is just getting it to us so we can test it. We're also wanting to make sure that we involve students and bring focus groups so students can look at it, because primarily this is what it's all about, and we're developing the pathways for our students. Now, I will turn it over to my next colleague, and we will be available for questions at the end, but I'll let them present before I answer any questions specifically regarding pathways. Dr. Paul Dale will present the next piece.
Thank you, Dr. Lara. It's my pleasure, President Hendrix, member of the board, to provide you an update on really what I'm describing as the front end or the bolt-on experience to a student life cycle as it relates to dramatically improving and transforming those types of services, and for the next year or so that really focus on the front door experience for our prospective students and our current students. I might just provide just 2 comments in terms of context. First of all, I want to reiterate the vast amount of work that Dr. Lara talked about in terms of integrating college teams, district teams, leadership across the district. And really part of the transformation is how we're managing change. And if you think about scaling this kind of change over 10 colleges, stakeholder groups, leadership groups, the district office, it's really been remarkable, albeit a lot of pick and shovel work, but that really is the nexus of our leadership strategy. Secondly, I want to provide just another piece of context before I walk you through these 5 deliverables. I had the privilege last week to attend the League of Innovation board meetings with Chancellor Harper Marinick as the representative from the Maricopa Community Colleges, and we meet as a separate group from the board of directors. And I specifically spent some time benchmarking our work around integrating communications marketing with a CRM tool, with a contact center to really transform that prospective student experience. And it was remarkable to note that of the 19 other league colleges, we were the only college at a scaled level kind of stepping into this space. And these are the Moraine Valleys of the world, the Austins of the world, the Dallases of the world, and yet it's Maricopa that's really, in my opinion, taking this very calculated professional risk to scale up the type of activity we're looking at in terms of the infrastructure that supports the prospective student experience. So I found that to be somewhat remarkable. So let me walk you through, I'm not going to go through all 5 of these. Let me walk you through some of the highlights of our deliverables in the first 90 days. Back up. So as you're aware, through the good work of the system level marketing and communications, last spring we started a campaign to target prospective students who have some college and no degree. That campaign will come to an end in early November. It's yielded about 200 prospective students, 150 of those of which are still in our pipeline in terms of we're trying to move those in from a prospective status to an admission status. So far to date, that campaign has yielded about $40,000 worth of footsie dollars in terms of bringing new students into the system. As we've reported prior to, one of the projects that had been underway was the establishment of a CRM tool. Training has been completed at all 10 colleges. We're working to try to standardize our service level agreements between the system level CRM and the colleges. Again, the point here is that we want to make sure that 100% of our prospective students have some form of human contact in terms of kind of monitoring their progress from being a prospect to an applicant to an enrollee. And we know that there are significant numbers of students, about 10,000 prospective students still in that pipeline. And so we're just beginning to scale up the work with our customer relation management tool. Tonight on the board agenda is a consent agenda item to approve the renovation and purchase of equipment and technology to stand up our call center at Wood Street. We will be moving, at the present point, we have 4 members or 4 folks in our call center. We're in the process of finalizing the hiring of 30 student services specialists to man that call center, and when that Wood Street facility is completed, we will have 30 full-time employees managing that full student life cycle as it relates to ensuring student enrollment, nudging student success, and those types of things. So again, that is a consent agenda item on the board tonight. And lastly, I want to report that on November 9th, the new district website will be launched. We still have a couple weeks of testing with pilot student groups and general populations. All the data has been migrated, and again, this is an important part of the integration of the whole marketing outreach communication, feeds into the CRM, then feeds into the contact center. So we're excited about supporting the front door experience. It is the first step in a guided pathway, and that's our progress to date for the first 90 days. With that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Stephen Gonzalez, to talk about industry partnerships.
Thank you, Dr. Dale. Board Chair Hendrix, board member CEC guest. I have to admit that I've been shaking the whole time that I've been back there. Last time someone asked me and 2 buddies to line up behind them, we ended up getting paddled for something that we didn't do at school. So I'm happy that I'm just here to report our progress so far on industrial partnerships. That's a true story, folks. Let me move on to the next one here. So I have 12 deliverables to report on, and I'm not going to hit every single one of those. We don't have that kind of time tonight, but I'll be happy to answer any questions later that you might have on each of those. But what I do want to highlight, you will find on this slide alone. And so I'm going to talk about items 1, 2, 3, and 5 here. So establishing a Chancellor Strategic Leadership Council on Workforce and Economic Development. These tie back to the work of the original Transformation Task Force, where we were asked to come up with a competitive regional workforce to create the career pathways for our students, guided pathways with stackable credentials for our students along the way, to improve our response time to employers, to increase the number of students that are completing degrees and certificates, and to standardize a labor market tool and data to inform our decision making around careers and the types of programs that we offer. So one of the ways that we hope to remain on the cutting edge is to constantly have feedback from a core group of people in Maricopa County that can provide some real-time information to our chancellor and therefore to our district. We're about 25% of the way there, largely because what we're doing right now is we're taking a large-scale assessment of how people participate now through our business and industry leadership teams, our workforce innovation and leadership councils, how people participate in our president's advisory councils, and we're taking a collection of that, and we're going to see what this body should be made of, and that's going to be informed by our task force here that's assigned to do this, and ultimately we will present a list to our chancellor as recommendations of who should probably reside on this to give us the best information that's out there. So more information to come on that. We hope to have a proposal to the chancellor and CEC for consideration at the beginning of December. For item number 2, identify appropriate subject matter experts and consultants. I'm happy to report that we have some heavy hitters that are willing to help us out and to collaborate with us from the community aspect and workforce aspect. We have Aaron Ball, who is with the Center for Future of Arizona. We have Trevor Stokes, who is with the State Office of Economic Opportunity. And we have Malcolm Green for Advanced Manufacturing, who is with Arizona Manufacturing Partnership, also known as AMP. And this is just a small taste of the types of folks that we're going to have helping us and that are willing to help us every step of the way. For item number 3, identify and prioritize industry sectors for year 1. Now, if you recall, we had started work about 1.5 years ago, nearly 2 years ago, on the concept of centers for excellence. And out of that, advanced manufacturing was the first sector to be considered out of the 6 that were identified. I've asked the team to take a look at the data and to also receive feedback from some of our community collaborators and existing advisory councils to see if those sectors are still viable, relevant, and it's not much of a surprise to realize that they really are still relevant today. But there will be possibly some slight changes to those. Advanced manufacturing is certainly one of those. I think it would be irresponsible on our part if we ignored the good work that had been done. About this time last year, a proposal had been submitted to the Chancellor's Office that came out of the work of the Advanced Manufacturing Task Force. And so we have asked members of that team to join members of the current team and to really pick up where that proposal left off, update that proposal, and move forward with that. So we can report probably between a 70 and 80% rate on the completion of that, and the lower rate overall is because the other 2 sectors are yet to be identified. And I'm hesitant to say what they are, but I'll tell you what we're leaning towards, and when I say this, they're not concrete. At the moment, we still need very good feedback from our CTE faculty. We've reached out to the instructional councils that began to meet during the month of October, and we were waiting for those meetings to take place to get feedback from faculty and their participation in this decision. What data is pointing towards at the moment, in addition to advanced manufacturing, is IT, particularly around cybersecurity and construction. There are high demand areas, and these are also areas that may give us the ability to have perhaps more of an opportunity to engage at the state legislative levels in our opportunities to seek additional funding. And some have indicated that if funds could be tied directly to those sort of programs, there may be some interest. And so that's part of our lean towards that too. But again, we want to engage with our CTE faculty to help inform the rest of that decision. And item number 5, create and deploy planning and implementation team for Institute 1 advanced manufacturing. That's just essentially what I said. The Advanced Manufacturing Project Team reconvened on September 19th, just a month ago, and we honored their work. We asked them if they wanted to continue to work on this new team, and all members that were present that day said that they would love to do that. So we're happy to have them to honor that work and continue that. So that concludes. While there is an additional slide, pretty much what I have said, you will find a correlation to those items, and that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
So this is what our site looks like. And so any information about the transformation, the progress that we're making will be included. We want to make sure that it is a transparent process, that there are points of accountability that will be pretty public about. So I want to say thank you to all the people that are involved in this work and my colleagues. And I would like any of the people in the audience who are involved in the transformation to please stand so we can say thank you for the work. And actually, that was a trick question, because other than the students from ASU behind me, everybody should be standing. Because this work is impacting all of us, and you too, students, right? We do it for you. So let me say thank you to everybody for your contributions. What questions may you have, board members?
Mr. Gutierrez.
Chancellor, this is, and gentlemen, this is extraordinary. Now can you hear me?
Yes.
This was extraordinary. Thank you very much, and it's moving in a timely fashion, and it appears will meet the schedule that was more or less conceived at the time that this was adopted. This was a risky step. The board allotted millions of dollars from reserves in order to implement this. It was assumed, and it is very clear that in the coming budget, an equal amount, perhaps more, from those reserves has to be allotted in order to complete this project and make it work. So the timeliness of it is I guess continues to be my concern. My concern, as you recall, at the time, and I think I specifically made President Lara the scapegoat of my comments, was, can this be done part-time? I mean, the president has to run a college. That continues to be my concern. Just so you know, I absolutely impressed with how far this has gone. But the demands on President Lara's time, and President Dale's time, and President Gonzalez's time, and on yours, are just going to continue to grow, the demands on your time, as this leaves the planning phase and begins to become real. And so I just share that with you. I don't have a complaint, and I don't have a recommendation, but I think that has to be clearly kept in mind, because the demands on everyone's time who's involved in this project, if we are to meet the timeline and we are to assure this board that the risk they took in taking reserve dollars to implement this was a good risk, the demands on your time are just going to grow exponentially here. So I make that observation. I assume that you guys have thought about it. You're a hell of a lot smarter than I am. So the only thing I have to do is be concerned. What you have to do is figure it out.
Yeah, I'm concerned too.
Thank you.
They're not complaining yet, but the truth is that the presidents are providing leadership at a very strategic level, and then we have a whole team of people working with each one of them, and some of those people have been redeployed to work full-time on this initiative, thanks to the support of all of the college presidents. So I'm pretty confident that with the people that we have now and the people that will be joining some of this work, that we are going to be meeting the deadlines. And if not, believe me, you know how I am. I ask more questions than anybody else. Then we will have to adapt and come up with a different way of supporting the work. But
Yeah,
thank you. I hear you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm fully confident that the presidents are providing the leadership necessary at this point, and I'm fully confident that they will adjust their time. But leadership in this instance is absolutely essential to moving the project forward. This is not a project that's already in place. It sort of has a life of its own and moves on. So their time, their leadership time, they're walking in and motivating and inspiring, and in fact making tough decisions is going to be in greater demand. That's I think you all have realized this, and at this point, I'm very impressed, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Sarr.
I just want to share my appreciation for where you've gone from 2 months ago to where we are now, and specifically the fact that we're seeing how some of these issues kind of merge together, and one takes the other in order to be successful as a whole. So progress is being made, and I agree. We've got several thousand people involved in this, obviously, but I also look forward to, as we progress into the next few months, especially, so that we can prepare ourselves maybe for some of the additional staffing, as was mentioned regarding the call center. But we know that we need those advisors, and we need to have trained advisors, and we need to have specifically trained advisors in certain areas of expertise. And that's where I think the real work starts, is when we get to that level. And the benefits will really start to flow into the student level when we get to that point. So I'm looking forward to that, of course, and patience is not one of my best features, but I want to thank you and remind everybody that the investment we made, I feel comfortable in, that the end result will justify the means. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Everyone deserves the thank you, actually. There's a lot of work happening all the time, every single day. Thank you.
Dr. Thor.
I also want to thank the team for some remarkable progress in a short period of time. And I want to particularly acknowledge you, Chancellor, for going out to the colleges and personally presenting the vision for the transformation, because I think that it is critical that our employees know that the board is fully behind this effort, that you as the chancellor, that all of the presidents are committed to the success of this initiative, that it's a very positive step forward for us as a system, and particularly for our students. And I would say to my fellow board members that I think that it's also very important that we discipline ourselves to not get in the way of the progress that's being made here, and not go off on other initiatives of the moment, that we've got to stay focused on this and see it all the way through to completion.
Thank you.
Ms. Livingston.
Just quickly, thank you to everybody in this room. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Chancellor. This is amazing work. I especially like the 3 first areas that you picked. Brilliant, very brilliant. Other than that, thank you everybody here at Maricopa. It's fantastic.
Mrs. Haber.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody as well. When you think about what a difference this is going to make, think about those of us who've gone through college and wish we had had the kind of guidance that the students are going to be getting in our colleges, and how everything is going to be more, what's the word for it, set up in such a way where they really know where they're going and what's best for them. So this is very exciting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
We'll be back next month. Thank you.
We have one one person signed up for citizens interim. Anna Castro, do you still want to speak? I'm guessing not. She was here on the, oh, she's here, okay. I'll read the citizens interim announcement, then I skipped it. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the governing board in compliance with the open meeting law. The governing board will neither discuss nor take action on issues raised during this portion of the agenda. When necessary, issues will be taken under advisement and placed on subsequent agenda. Presenting concerns to the board and the free expression of ideas should be communicated with decorum and respect. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Ana Luisa Castro. I am a mother to 2 children. One of them is here with me, and the other one's downstairs with my husband. What your name is?
My name is Iscali, and I do go to school and preschool, and I go to circle time, and when it's lunchtime, and I eat at lunchtime, and then I also have snacks at school, and then I play outside, and then inside, and I learn ABCs, and I learn about bugs, and there's grasshoppers at school.
So I'm a student at South Mountain Community College.
And we live at Tempe.
We live in Tempe. I just got accepted into the bilingual nursing program. And when we moved to the area, we couldn't find a preschool and ran into the Tree of Life preschool. And I just want to say that I'm very grateful to be a parent at that preschool. We have a scholarship in that preschool, and as a parent who's a student at the college, we feel very fortunate to have our children there because we have both our kids there. Because it's just across the street, and we are able to be reached if we're needed, or okay, go ahead.
And we also go to school, and my mom goes to college.
Yes.
She also learns the body.
Yes. So we just want to share that we appreciate that you guys have extended the contract for the remainder of the year, the school year. And if you guys are ever talking about keeping it for longer, I would really, really appreciate that, because as a student and a parent, it really eases it up for us. We are able to go to school and study and know that our kids are safe in a facility that's already established. So I just want to say that I appreciate it. I know that my husband appreciates it also. And thank you for having us here tonight. Do you want to say anything to it?
And it's my mom's birthday today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. How much better does it get? Okay, consent agenda items. All items with an asterisk are consent matters unless they're removed from the consent agenda at this time. Any item may be removed from the agenda by the chancellor as a matter of administrative prerogative or by the governing board upon motion duly made, seconded, and approved. Consent agenda items will be approved by one motion, and there will be no specific discussion of these items. Items removed from the consent agenda will be approved during the consideration of the non-consent agenda. We've had a request to remove item 11.1. Are there any others?
Nope, 11.1.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
To approve the consent agenda
As amended.
As amended.
as amended. Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Consent agenda passes. Item 11.1, approval of authorization of increased expenditure and extension of ERP consultants. Comments?
Mr. President.
You're up, Mr. Gutierrez.
I'm looking for the item here, and I'll find it in time. But Mr. I have great concerns about this, and frankly, my concern are as follows. I understand that we have long ago adopted a class and comp initiative, and that we are proceeding towards fulfilling it and implementing it on our employees. It has been delayed. The implication of what is before us is that it is being further delayed. And I guess I have some very serious questions. And I think they're going to be directed first at the Chancellor, and the Chancellor can direct them to staff as appropriate. But we are delayed. We are behind schedule. This implication is we will further be behind schedule. As you know, I have great concerns that we have the appropriate team doing this, and there's 11,000 people who work for us who are going to be subject to this. And I guess this raises a question, this appropriation. And I'm not going to oppose it because I find myself, along with everybody else, in the middle of a roaring stream on a raft. And opposing it means I lose the raft. So I'm not going to oppose it, but I'm asking questions of when does this end? Do we have the right team? And are we overseeing this in the appropriate fashion? 11,000 people are going to be impacted by this, and we've raised these questions before. So I direct those general questions, Chancellor, to assure me, to assure the board, and to assure those 11,000 folks who will be impacted by this that it ultimately will be done, and it ultimately will be done right. But it'd be a good idea to understand when we believe it will be done at this point. Well, is it January of next year? Is it the spring of next year? Is it in next year's budget? I mean, what are we looking at now, given this request before us?
Mr. Gutierrez, thank you, President Hendrix, members of the board. The initial deadline was October, so this is the first delay, I would say official delay. We're expecting to have the completion of not only the classification part of the study, but the compensation by February. I'm looking at my vice chancellors. So I believe that we have the right plan to stay on target and get that accomplished. But if there are any specific questions or perhaps information that the vice chancellors can add, I would ask them to do that.
Thank you, Chancellor and governing board members. I would ask whether there are some specific areas where information might be lacking so that I can respond more appropriately. We have been providing the updates in the weekly snapshot as well as conversations that we've had. So if there are areas where that's not sufficient or where there are questions remaining, that would be very helpful again in terms of responding.
Well, I don't have a specific question. I have an observation because, Chancellor, as I recall, our original adoption foresaw July, and we adjusted that to October, and we are now adjusting it to February. And I guess my only specific question is, do we have the right team doing this? Because, are we going to be sitting here, say in January, adjusting it again to April or to May? I think those are legitimate questions, whether we have the competent people appropriate to doing a very big task. that's going to impact a lot of folks. That's my specific question. And are you confident that it's February this time?
The part that was not included initially was the compensation component of, even though we keep calling it class and comp, it used to be classification, but it did not have any component of compensation. So the main reason for the delay now is that we felt we shouldn't be moving to a system of that classifies employee in a different manner unless we understand how the compensation part is going to work. So that is the primary reason for the delay. So we actually have classification and compensation in place. I have no evidence to believe that we're not going to be on time, and if we're not, then there will be measures of accountability in place.
Thank you, Chancellor.
Any further comments from Mr. Saar?
Yeah, we've had discussions at a meeting earlier this month on this, so I won't go through the whole process, but we were asked to provide additional funding to complete the IT portion of this, and that's pretty much what this particular issue is about. And I voiced my concern that, is it going to be another group of money that is going to be needed to finish it down the road? And in our discussion, I feel confident that this is pretty much it. And somebody can dispute that if it's not true. But I don't want to keep pushing money into this unless we are really looking at it in a result that we've accomplished, that we've set a long time ago with this class and comp. And obviously there's lots of pieces to it. IT is connected to everything. And I get that. But I just want to make the point that I don't want to keep looking at more and more money being put into this without really coming up with the result that we looked at many years ago.
Any further comments? We need a motion.
I'll move it.
Second.
I don't think we have any choice at this point. We either, Mr. President, we either abandon this initiative in the middle of that roaring stream, or we take a leap of faith in this one. And I guess I'm prepared to take a leap of faith in this one, but I think that if I'm sitting on this board in February and there's another delay, I'm not taking any further leaps of faith. I'm going to be demanding that somebody else be put in charge of this if we're going to go forward with it, or that we abandon it. What we are doing with each one of these delays, with each one of these further requests for funding, is heightening anxiety amongst 11,000 folks. And if we're not going to do it well in February, then at that point, Chairman, I would move otherwise. But at this point, hopefully there'll be a second. I move it.
Second.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passes. On to 12.1. Any comments or questions? 13.1, monitoring reports. Any comments or questions? 13.2, general obligation bonds.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Saar.
Just for the knowledge, we get continuous information regarding these items throughout the month and specifically at certain times of the month. So the lack of questions doesn't mean we don't get it. We look at this very closely.
Thank you. Employee group reports. Mr. Mitchell.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Just so I'll keep my voice toned down. So. I was told after my last presentation that I blew out the speakers. So. Board President Hendrix, members of the Governing Board, Chancellor, members of CEC and guests, thank you for this moment to share with you a glimpse of the good work that the faculty of the Maricopa Community Colleges are doing beyond excellent teaching for their students and dedicated service to their colleges. First, a couple of testimonials. I want to thank you for the $850 that paid for the outstanding balance of my tuition the fall of 2001 semester. You have given me the opportunity to stay enrolled in school in order to continue my education and actively apply for universities for the fall of 2012. And another testimonial. I would like to thank the Maricopa College's Faculty Foundation for the $131 emergency grant to help pay to get a new alternator for my truck. Without this, I would not have been able to afford to fix my truck, and therefore, I also would not have been able to get to school. Now my truck is fixed and my schooling can continue. I was shocked when my teacher told me the grant was accepted. Words cannot express how thankful I truly am. Thank you so very much from the bottom of my heart. The Maricopa College's Faculty Foundation is a 501c3 charitable organization established in 2007 under the leadership of the then Maricopa Community College's Faculty Association President, Janice Riley. It was founded in response to the unforeseen financial needs that students face that, while not significant to most people, too often cause our financially fragile students to drop out. And once they are gone, they are far less likely to come back. Faculty, the primary contact for students, are frequently the first to hear of the stress these economic misfortunes place on our students. Unfortunately, prior to 2007, there were few, if any, emergency funds for students like these, and they would walk away from their dreams of a better life, all because of a stolen book bag, minor car repair, or deadbeat roommate. This all too common experience led to the creation of this unusual financial aid niche. In January 2007, the Maricopa Community Colleges Faculty Association formed the Maricopa Colleges Faculty Foundation and began making one-time emergency grants for Maricopa students in need. While the Faculty Foundation gives a few merit-based academic scholarships each semester, the bulk of aid given by the Faculty Foundation is in the form of one-time emergency grants of up to $500. Occasionally, a larger grant is made if circumstances warrant. In 2010, $6,801 was given to 2,259 students. Last year, $34,251 was given to 21,805 students. With an all-volunteer board, the foundation has an operational overhead of less than 1%. It holds fundraisers and book drives, but the bulk of the funding for these efforts to keep our students retained in their courses and on the road to the completion of their educational goals comes directly from the caring members of the Maricopa Community Colleges Faculty Association, all of whom are committed to student success. Now, when a professor becomes aware of a student in need, they email the board. A student can have a check in his or her hands in as little as 24 hours. The foundation does not concern itself with GPA, gender, race, age, sexual orientation, nationality, immigrant status, or merit. We only ask one question. Does this Maricopa student have an emergency financial need that we can meet? The foundation's philosophy, which I am firmly convinced is shared by all of the faculty, is that a Maricopa student in need is a student worthy of assistance. The Maricopa Community Colleges Faculty Association, through its foundation, is striving to make success a reality for our most vulnerable students. I would like to take just a moment to thank the faculty working this year on the board of the Maricopa Colleges Faculty Foundation. President Barry Vaughn from Mesa, Vice President Reggie Monroe from Chandler Gilbert, Treasurer Dr. Jim Simpson from Scottsdale, members Halise Agria from Phoenix College, Yvette Espinoza from South Mountain, Patrice Nango from Mesa, and Dr. John Griffith from Mesa. And one final testimonial. I'll try not to break up as I read this one. I find it difficult to find the right words to express my sincere appreciation for your generosity. However, I will do my best. For you to understand how much what you have done for me means to me, I feel you must first see the position I was in. I was in a severe economic situation due to having to leave an abusive relationship which ended in divorce. Because of the divorce, I had to file for bankruptcy. I found myself in a catch-22 situation. If I was unable to acquire the funds needed for the books required for my final courses, my window of opportunity to become a licensed and certified teacher would have been lost. Thus, all the years and work I've put into achieving my goal of becoming a teacher would have been for naught. Your unbelievable generosity has turned the bleak into light. Because of your kindness, I now see the light at the end of the tunnel. I am on track to reach my goals, You have altered my life in such a positive way. Thank you.
Adjunct faculty report. Dr. Haas.
Brought my glasses this time. President Hendrix, members of the board, Dr. Harper Marinick, members of the CEC and guests, my name is Patricia Gale Haas, and I'm the president of the Adjunct Faculty Association. First, I would like to thank the Chancellor for her support of our little project. I want to acknowledge the efforts of the Human Relations Department of Phoenix College for taking the time to go back 5 decades into the personnel records to identify adjuncts that have taught for generations. The Adjunct Faculty Association is very pleased to be representing this example of quality instruction and student success. One of Dr. Kaiser's student comments was, "He is very inspirational. He made me feel like I could do anything in the world." This example reminds us of why we do what we do. Earlier this fall, we launched a program to temporarily use adjunct faculty professional growth funds to help some teachers meet the more stringent Higher Learning Commission standards. Maricopa Center for Teaching and Learning is administrating this program, and there are several adjuncts taking advantage of it. It's off to a good start. I would like to mention the very hard work of Francis Clemenco, who created start menus and directions and made the program possible to navigate. This month, we hosted the Learning and Engagement for Adjunct Development Conference, the LEAD. Maricopa Center for Teaching and Learning and Instruction hosted it, and it was a very positive program. Maria Reyes and Daniel Barajas came to introduce and explain transformation. They both fielded questions, and the response was engaging and supportive. Adjuncts understand that effectively improving systems will require an all-hands-on-deck. And the truth is, all faculty serve on the front lines. We may be able to help identify issues big and small, which may prove to inform change. One idea now in process is figuring out a reporting mechanism to capture these ideas and issues and funnel them in the appropriate direction, and it sounds like you're already working on that. Thank you very, very much for your support of adjuncts.
Thank you. External community reports, Mr. Sarr.
Is the governing board?
No, the AADGB.
Oh. That I've attended on behalf of Mr. Gutierrez. This organization is made up of representatives from each of the 10 college districts in the state of Arizona. We met at the national conference in Las Vegas as well. Looking forward to coming here to Maricopa later on in November, right, for GISS, which stands for something. Governance Leadership Institute or something.
For student success, you got it.
Yeah, and we're into the acronyms here in a big way. And that's going to give us a chance not only to work as our own Maricopa team, but also to share ideas and what's happening nationally with the people that we're bringing in. So the group is getting into the performance of the state of Arizona in terms of going to the legislature for support, as well as going with our own initiatives to make student success more successful here in Arizona.
Thank you. ASBA report?
No.
ACCT report?
We just got back, as I said, from our national Congress. I learned an awful lot about what's happening nationwide, as I'm sure all of us did. But the growth in focus on student success nationally is unbelievable. And you learned tonight about another major focus, which is guided pathways. That's not just happening here, that's happening nationwide. We're really focused on making sure that when a student comes to us for education, that we're able to put him or her on a path to success. And that is a really become the number one item on everybody's list of discussion.
Thank you. Governing Board reports, Mrs. Haber.
Well, this has been a really enjoyable month for me. I went to the celebration of the Maricopa Foundation, in which they are very proud they reached their goal of $50 million, which means many scholarships for many, many students. And some of the students are actually there. I enjoyed getting to know them. I went to Gateway a couple of times and to talk about some issues and also to hear about the transformation and much of what was presented to us this evening, and how that relates to Gateway in particular, is sort of a better idea of what they're doing and where they hope to go with their many projects. And also I was at Scottsdale Community College for the grand opening of their new IT facility. So it's been all positive for me.
Thank you. Mr. Saar.
I was at those events too. We made a great decision as a foundation to identify Carolyn Warner as the hero of education for this year. Couldn't happen to a much better person. She's been a mentor of mine for decades, and I really look forward to the dinner coming up this spring. So, also I attended this was last week an event at Scottsdale Community College, recognizing the accomplishments of a grant that we got about 5 years ago, called Arizona Mathematics Partnership. And it is designed to work with middle school teachers in mathematics to instill the fun of learning mathematics. Now, if you ever had a middle school student or had any interaction with one of those, math is not the most important thing in their life. But it has been a successful program of really changing how students at that level and succeeding levels as they grow older, the love and learning of math. And I think that's going to make a big difference in our mathematical developmental ed issues as we go forward. So I want to congratulate all those involved. It was a district-wide operation. There were a few of the grant identified a few of our colleges to get involved, but there were several school districts around the valley that were involved in this, and all of them, to a person, really felt this was a good investment of funds through the grant. And hopefully, AMP is the acronym for this, and the new AMP acronym is going to be AMP2. So we'll see if there's a follow-up grant on this to keep it going.
Mrs. Livingston.
Well, I went to Paradise Valley Community College, and while I was there, I went to AAEC, which is one of our charter schools. And what was great is when I walked in the door, I asked for students to give me the tour. And I had two great students who were about ready to graduate. Well, they're counting the days till graduation, even though it's just October. But they'll be ready. They're both graduating also with their AA. So just think about that for a moment. These two students were beyond wonderful, polite, everything that you'd want in a citizen of the future, or now as they consider themselves. And they're going to graduate with a high school degree and an AA. This is what we're doing. We're giving those or we're partnering with those types of schools and individuals that have those type of like-minded goals to give kids that better leg up. I don't know. I encourage you to go out to PV or any of the other campuses. I think there's one at South Mountain and Estrella with AAC. And if I forget one, is there one at Mesa? Okay. Go out there and see it. Because the kids are great, the school is great, and the partnership that we have going there is just amazing. So that's all I've got for this month. Oh, if any of you pray, go ahead, and if I say something wrong, that's okay. My son's having major surgery on Tuesday. He's having his L4 and L5 replaced. So if you say anything to anyone, a rock, a Buddha, I don't care, please think of our family. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Thor.
I also attended, along with Mr. Saar and Mr. Hendrix, the Association of Community College Trustees Annual Leadership Congress in Las Vegas. And I had the honor to moderate the closing panel at the pre-Congress Baccalaureate Summit. And my panel discussed the role of the governing board related to seeking and offering baccalaureate degrees in community colleges. I also co-presented along with Mr. Saar at the Pre-Congress Academy on Policy Guidelines for Fiscal Health and Management. And our topic was fiscal planning and accountability, and one of our students was Mr. Hendrix. I doubt that he learned anything from us, however. And it was a particular privilege to be present at the Regional Awards Luncheon, where Paradise Valley Community College music faculty member Christopher Cinto was honored as the Pacific Region Faculty Member of the Year. So he made us very proud, and it was wonderful that his parents were able to be there as well. September 29th, I attended again with Mr. Saar. I don't know whether I'm stalking him or he's stalking me, but we show up at a lot of places together. The Everyone Can Code Lunch and Learn at Mesa Community College. And the event allowed participants to get an idea of what's involved in the new Apple app development classes that are being offered this fall at Mesa and only 5 other community colleges in the country. I'm not sure that they proved that I can learn to code because they partnered me with Ed Kelty. So, of course, we were successful in the project that we had. A number of us on October 12th attended the Chandler Gilbert 25th anniversary celebration, and it's really hard to believe that Chandler Gilbert it's been in existence longer than 25 years, but 25 years as an individually accredited institution, and that was a very nice event. And earlier that day, I attended a student panel about DACA that was sponsored by the Chandler Gilbert Hispanic Student Organization. And it was extremely well done, very informative, very moving, and was extremely well attended. And I also joined some of the board members in other events that have been commented on. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Gutierrez.
I really have no report.
Thank you.
I'm just
Ms.
glad to be
McGrath.
here.
I had the opportunity to attend a wonderful, wonderful ceremony. It was held at Gateway. It was honoring people who have written textbooks. It seems that there are not many students in our district who buy textbooks because they are so horribly expensive. I know that Mr. Hendrix pointed out in one of the reports that we have one textbook that sells for $375. I met the wonderful English teachers who have gotten together and written the textbook for English 101. The textbook for that class, when you buy it at the bookstore, is $190. Their book also sells at the bookstore. It's a paperback for $31. And the students obviously are buying it, and it's creating a great deal of student success. And I was so proud of these teachers and so happy to have the opportunity to meet them, and wonderful to know that we have professors like this who dedicate their time and effort to things that really, truly help our students.
Thank you. I'm appreciative to my fellow board members because they do the heavy lifting and go to all these academic things. Somebody's got to attend the entertainment and make sure it's online, and that's me. I did go to the ACC Congress in Las Vegas, and I enjoyed the seminar taught by Dr. Thor and Mr. Saar. And it was an excellent seminar. I attended the 25th anniversary in Chandler Gilbert. That was great. They had some student entertainment that were tremendously talented. I had a really good time there. But the highlight is I went to Chandler Gilbert, had a play called Grimm's Fairy Tales. And I got an email that morning before I went from President Guerrero, said, just giving you a heads up, this is PG-13. And so I got there and I watched it, and it was very irreverent. There was a lot of wonderful crudity, and it was definitely at least PG-13. The actors were just, if any of you were there, but the actors were just phenomenal. We've got some unbelievable talent down there at Chandler Gilbert that put this together. The set was simple, but the actors were tremendous. And not to be outdone, I went to another play at Scottsdale Community College because somebody has to make these sacrifices. So I went there and saw Land of the Dead, which we had zombies coming on stage and lots of blood and gore and bodies being chewed on the stage. It was every bit as good as Grimm's Fairy Tale. It was fantastic. I got to sit with President Gaylor. Was great. We met her out on the steps, and we were all shaking hands. And Bill True, the chair of the film department, was there. And as we're talking on the steps, a man comes up and he says, "And I'm Bill." And it turns out this is Dr. Gaylor's husband, who's a fan of the film department, is taking classes there. And I got to sit with him, and I want to say hi to Bill if he's watching here. I was glad to meet him. And the set design was just unbelievable at Scottsdale. I don't know how much time they put into that, but the students create the sets, they create the sound, they create everything. It's Chandler Gilbert got some competition. I haven't been to the other colleges yet, but I'm looking forward to Mesa. I believe it's next week or a couple weeks down the road, not too far. I think they've got, is it Beauty and the Beast? Is that right? And looking forward to that one. And anyway, I guess we'll get a motion to adjourn in a second. We'll wrap up here.
So moved.
Oops, Mr. Saar just pointed out that I forgot to announce the next meeting dates. November 14th is agenda review, 4 o'clock. November 28th is our next regular board meeting. Since we have a motion in a second, meeting adjourned.
So moved.